you have to earn credibility with yourself. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm so unconfident. Why can't I just be confident like the next person? And it's like, that person is confident because they do the things they say they're going to do. Confidence is not a personality trait, right? It's something that you develop, and you develop it by taking actions. And those actions don't always feel good at, when you're doing them. But when you don't think you can do it and then you do it, you prove to yourself, oh, I can do it. It is possible. And then you earn a little bit of credibility with yourself because you said you were going to do something and you showed up. Sustainably, in order to have sustained self-worth and self-confidence, it wasn't going to come from anybody or anything outside of myself. So I think I needed to have those rejections to feel that frustration, to be like, no, like this is not it for me. It's not about what other people think. It's not about what other people let you do or give you the opportunity to do. It's about you taking opportunities for yourself. Hey, this is McKenzie Dawkins, and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers. Welcome to this week's episode of Dreams and Drive. I am so excited to have my friend and former episode 83 guest, McKenzie Dawkins, back in the guest chair. So when we first chatted with McKenzie back in 2017, she was taking us on her journey post-college and all the twists and turns she had to navigate. We talked about fighting fear and doubt, accepting your gifts, believing in yourself, refueling your passions, and what she was doing to continue towards her end goal, or what she thought her end goal was at that time, right? Today's episode, we're going to catch up with her and all that she has accomplished since our last conversation. So from becoming the content creator and social media influencer she always dreamed of being, she danced for Lizzo at the VMAs. She finally landed that big girl post-graduation job 7 years later, and what this all means. So we talk about things like getting beat down by rejections, the path to finding confidence, and how to suspend the disbelief in yourself. That's something that McKenzie has really been working on over these past few years and really building that confidence and credibility with herself. So she's going to open up about her journey and give tips for how you can do that as well. This is a great episode for anyone who feels like life just isn't going for them and they're not really sure what quite to do. You really have to have the courage and the patience and the confidence / belief, right? That things will work out for you because you are the driver of your dreams. McKenzie opens up. She's so vulnerable in this episode, and she's so transparent about everything that has happened to her from following that non-traditional path post-college and how that played out for her. So if you enjoyed this episode, I'm asking that you please make sure to share it with your community. You can find us across the board. We're Dreams and Drive on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Post us to Instagram stories, email it, send the link to your friends and family. This is a great episode, and I really want to make sure that we get as many people listening as possible. And remember, if you want to join the Dreams and Drive crew, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join to sign up for our online newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates via email. All right, let's get to McKenzie. McKenzie, girlfriend.
Raina.
How are you?
I am doing good. I cannot complain. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time coming since our episode 83, right? You are episode 83.
I know.
Yes.
And now you're on what, 200 something? Like you're just killing it.
5 plus, right? So
that's crazy.
But it's just crazy to think about just how much life has changed in the past 4 years. We were talking about it before we got started, but it's funny because the name of the episode was like on figuring it all out when your dream doesn't go as planned, right?
Right.
What would you call this new chapter of your life? Like if you were to title the book before it's done, right? What would you call what we're going to talk about today?
You're putting me on the spot. That's a good question. That's a good question. What would I call this chapter of my life? I think this chapter is just, I don't have like a cute answer for you, but I think it really just boils down to trust. I think trusting what's in front of me instead of trying to figure out what's next. I think the last time we spoke, I was all about like trying to figure out what was around the corner or why things had happened the way that they had happened. And now I'm just like, whatever comes, I'm here for it. I'm curious about it. I'm leading just more from a place of curiosity and trust. Yeah.
I like that. I like that because there is a lot of things that you've had to trust in yourself, trust others at times, maybe take away trust somewhere else. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, all of that, all of the above.
so let's just for our people who didn't tune into episode 83 and who do not know who the fabulous McKenzie Dawkins is, aka McKenzie Pens, okay? McKenzie Pens, right? Or McKenzie, right?
Yes,
What is it?
McKenzie Pens, yes.
Right? So
forthcoming.
yes. You are a woman of many talents, but just give us kind of like I don't normally start episodes like this, you know. Who are you?
Who am I? My name is McKenzie. I'm 29. I'm excited to almost be 30. I know, but you know what? I'm excited about it. Like you said, I identify heavily as a multi-hyphenate. I've always been somebody who's interested in many different things. Mm-hmm. So, you know, from writing, there's the dancing, there's the content creation across like social platforms. So yeah, I think right now, a lot of my identity goes into being a writer, which I'm excited about. A lot of people who know me, they know I write, but they don't really know I write. You know what I mean?
You actually a lot of like people writing. Might know me more. You know, you're a writer who likes writing. Yeah. No, I'm saying that because I could say I'm a writer, but I don't really like writing, right? But you are somebody who really is, this is your craft. This is you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think it's been like a really long and hard journey for me to get to a place where I even use that word of writer, right? I think we might have talked about this before, but I used to always just be someone that says like, oh, I like to write, or I like to dance, but I've always had trouble saying I'm a writer, I'm a dancer, I am a, you know, insert word here. But I feel like at this point in my life, I'm finally owning that part of my identity. So I can confidently say, I not only enjoy writing, but I am a writer. I'm good at what I do, and I enjoy it. So, yeah, it's definitely a shift in my thinking. But I think a lot of people so far have known me more for probably my natural hair content and the content creation side of things, Kenzie Kens, and that's still very much me. That's still very much a part of who I am. But I'm excited that the McKenzie Dawkins as the writer is coming to the forefront more in this chapter of my life.
Yeah, you know, something that I listened to our old episode in its entirety last night, and I took a few notes, and something that came up that I wanted to just remind you of, and I think this is a quote that you got from somebody else, is you said your purpose doesn't always yell, right?
Yeah.
And I think for you that you're finding your purpose and finding, like we talked about that we always had this sneaking suspicion that we were special in some way. It was part of our Cheesecake Factory conversation, right? Really tapping into what do you do when you have this sneaking suspicion, but you don't really yet fully believe it, or you don't really yet know how it will play out. So I've just been so happy to see you figure out that over these past few years since we last talked, not since we last talked, but you know what I mean, since we talked on the podcast.
Yes, yeah.
About that.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I still believe that wholeheartedly, but I think it almost has a different meaning for me now. I think before finding my purpose, I was probably speaking about it from a perspective of finding what I'm good at, you know, finding what I can do for a living, what I'm going to create my life around and my reputation around, right? But now I think, honestly, if you were to ask me what my purpose is, it has nothing to do with work. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm even a writer. I've been saying lately, as recently as just like the start of this year, my purpose is to feel good and do good. I literally think that's my purpose. I think that's everybody's purpose, is to feel good and do good. I don't think it's necessarily tied to what you do for a living. And I think, ironically, in that I've had more quote unquote success, moving towards getting more clarity in the things that I do for a living, from writing to content creation. Like, that's great. But I don't necessarily, I think these are assignments that help me feel good and do good. You know what I mean? Like, not to be too out there, but I almost feel like they're divine assignments that help me to feel good and do good for others. So that's really the purpose. This is just the medium by which I'm able to do so. Writing and content creation and all the different interests that I have. So it's really funny. I think it still holds true, everything we talked about in that conversation, but it's just I have a different perspective on it now.
Yeah, we're older. Like, think about if you were 29, if you're 29 now, you were 25 then. It's funny because I saw this meme on Instagram. It's like you still feel like your 20s. You still feel like you're in like your early 20s, but then when you hang out with early 20-year-olds, you're like, we are on two different wavelengths, right? So this whole evolution of self,
child.
the whole evolution of self is real. Another reminder for people who may not know is, so both me and McKenzie went to Princeton, and one of the big things we talked about in that conversation was this idea that once you graduated from college, you were supposed to have it all figured out, right? You have this big name, you're supposed to have this big job. 29 now, we should be billionaires by now, right? We should have 5 different houses, we should be geniuses, like all this stuff, and realizing that's not how life goes, right? In Augusto.
Yeah, not at all.
It's not always like that. Talk to us a little bit about just reflecting some of the twists and turns along. Maybe talk to us about a moment for you where you realize that this is not what I thought, right? Let's go back a little bit in time, just for people who haven't listened to the first episode. Like when you really had to be like, yo, like, what happened? Like, was this worth it? Was Princeton worth it? Is what I'm doing worth it?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of moments I could call back to, but I think two that stand out to me is that, when I graduated from Princeton, I wasn't one of those people who graduated with a job offer in hand. And so I was applying and I just wasn't hearing back, or I was getting rejected. And so then when I landed some of my first, I went the route of internships because I wasn't able to land jobs. And I just remember, I don't even remember which internship it was because, I did several.
Yeah.
But I just remember there was a point at which I was going to the bathroom every day just to cry. And I just remember being like, this is not what I thought, my post-grad experience was going to be like, it just felt like there was no way out. So that's definitely one moment. And then the other moment was another one of those internships. I was passing out flyers on the street. It was for like a retailer. And I was passing out flyers on the street. And I just remember thinking, when you pass out flyers in the street, nobody wants to take them. Nobody wants to look at you. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to be stopped out of, where they're going and what they've got going on. And so you just feel invisible. So I just remember standing on the street in the wintertime, trying to pass out these, fashion boutique flyers to people who were looking right through me and just feeling like, this is really what I'm doing right now. Like I worked so hard at school. I've been sending out my applications. Like, what is wrong? What is not clicking? What is not working? And yeah, I feel like I kept trying. I kept taking the internships, but they never turned into a full-time opportunity. And then I just felt like I really didn't go to school to be in this position. So I think those were some low times for me. Yeah, that's what comes to mind.
We spoke in 2017. I think at this point you were just in the beginning stages of the YouTube channel, right? It's so funny because I think when we did it, you only had 5,000 subscribers, right? How many do you have now?
Yeah,
on YouTube?
I think I'm about to hit 20.
Okay.
So it's crazy. Yeah, I'm about to hit 20. And honestly, YouTube hasn't even been my main priority. It's really been like Instagram and TikTok, I'd say. So I'm going to hit 17K on Instagram and I just hit 23K on TikTok. So it's just really crazy that, oh, please. Yeah, at the time, like 5,000, I was happy with my 5,000, but now it's really crazy because even though that was always the goal, I'm really humbled to just think that many people, press the follow button or the subscribe button. So it's nuts.
Yeah, a lot of things were catalyst moments for you. I think, you know what I mean? It's like to me, you were an example of, you didn't give up on yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You might have felt like giving up, but you always found a way then to do the work, maybe take some time off, and reinvent yourself. I forgot that you had even had the platform on Blank Woman, Phenomenal Woman. Remember that? BWPW?
Yeah.
That was something you had started.
Yeah. I think I would say that it's funny that you say I didn't give up on myself, because if you were talking to me then, probably before our last podcast interview, I really did feel like I felt like I was where I was, and that a lot of it was my fault for not being enough, however you want to define that, not being smart enough, not being ready enough, not being proactive enough, not being disciplined enough. Like it just always boiled down to something wasn't right, and that something must have been me, because why is it happening for everyone else and it's not happening for me, right? So It's funny that you say that you felt like I didn't give up, because I think I definitely was at the place for a few years where I stopped applying. I did. Like, when I came out of school, I was going hard, and then I just got beaten down by all the rejections or the no responses. And I really did. I got to a period where I just stopped applying. I never stopped looking. I always looked at the job boards and the job descriptions, but I got into this cycle where I would look up a job, I would read the description, and then I would read the bullet points. And if there was one out of those 5 or 10 bullet points that I felt like, oh, I don't know how to do that, I wrote myself off. It was like I was trying to protect myself from what I thought was the inevitable, which was that I wasn't going to get it anyway. So I was kind of, taking myself out of the game before I even applied. And I really did go through a period where I would define it as I gave up. I was just so afraid that it wouldn't change that I just stopped trying. I kept looking at the job boards, but I stopped sending in applications. And, but to that end, in the interim, I did try to follow my other inclinations. I did keep dancing. Like you said, I started Blank Woman, Phenomenal Woman, which doesn't exist anymore, but I started it at the time to give myself an outlet. And so in that way, I think that spirit has kind of carried on to the point where I am at today, which is that like I might have taken less traditional paths to kind of find my own confidence again. So it's just funny how that worked out.
Ooh, I like that. The path to finding McKenzie's confidence, right? Do you think it was lost, or do you think it needed to be bolstered?
I think it was lost. And honestly, I think it wasn't ever really that strong to begin with prior to my post-grad journey, So I think I needed to get to those lows to fight for myself. And to just realize that confidence wasn't going to come from the outside. No, it wasn't going to come from somebody handing me an opportunity. Like, yes, those things would feel good, right? But sustainably, in order to have sustained self-worth and self-confidence, it wasn't going to come from anybody or anything outside of myself. So I think I needed to have those rejections to feel that frustration, to be like, no, like this is not it for me. I know that I can do more. I know that there's more that I want to do. So if everybody else is not going to give me the opportunity, I'm gonna make an opportunity. I'm gonna make a YouTube video. I don't know anything about shooting content, but I'm gonna buy myself a camera and I'm gonna watch tutorials and I'm gonna figure out how to edit videos. And I don't know anything about building a website, but I'm gonna make a Squarespace website and figure out how to do that for myself. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think I definitely had to fight for it. And I think thankfully over time it's become much, much, much less of a fight. But I think that period was very necessary for me, because at that time I just think I was putting so much of my validation in the hands of my circumstances rather than creating my own set of circumstances,
Yeah. Let's talk about an opportunity post 2017. I'm looking at your LinkedIn right now, right? I'm trying to think, where do we want to start? Like, what do you think for you was the opportunity that set you on track outside of the things you're doing for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That set you on this track to hone in on your skills and figuring out, all right, how can I show up in a way that's authentic and that I feel like this is for me?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is ghostwriting. So I had always been a writer, and because I was interested in beauty coming out of school, I just thought, oh, the obvious, like I would get internships at beauty magazines, and then I would become a writer and an editor and do all those things. But I never stopped to think, like, do I actually want to do that? Am I actually interested in that?
You had the internship, right?
Yeah. And then I think by the time you do your third or fourth internship at a beauty magazine, you realize, like, oh, wait a minute. I actually don't know if this is what I want to do. I think I was trying to force myself to do that because it seemed like it made sense for me. And it did. But I think I stumbled across the Instagram account of Pollyanna Reed. She's a celebrity ghostwriter, a Forbes senior contributor. And she had a mentorship service called New Girls on the Block, and she still has it. It's, I don't even know how many women are a part of it. It's a huge program. And I just felt lost, right? I was lost. I was looking for guidance. I figured, like, let me just see if I can get, a mentor and just somebody to bounce things off of, because it had been 3 years that I was out of school at that time. So it was just like, I needed change, and I just felt like I didn't have the answers. So I wanted to talk to somebody who maybe had some answers. So I joined that mentorship program, and obviously in doing that, I met Pollyanna, and so she became my mentor. And then eventually, in her discovering that I was a writer and seeing some of my work, I actually ended up onboarding with her ghostwriting agency, Writer's Block. And in that, I think that was the start of me really developing some confidence in my actual skill set, because I was, writing everything from social media copy to website copy to biographies, op-eds, blog posts, speeches,
books,
and ultimately a book. Yeah, ultimately a book. And so I just think being kind of stretched in that way really forced me to be like, well, girl, clearly you're a writer. Clearly you're a writer, because, people are trusting you to write these very big, important things. They're trusting you to represent their brand. They're trusting you to be their voice, as a ghostwriter. And that really just, I can't say enough how much that did for my confidence in my own abilities, in my craft. And I think that's when I really started to start saying, I am a writer. I'm good at this. That's always something that I struggled saying or thinking. But yeah, that's definitely the thing that kind of, I think, switched things for me.
Throughout this, I guess, confidence metamorphosis, right? And this change that you were going through, what was the dream for you now? Like, you had this dream in the beginning, post-college. You thought life was going to be like this. Now that you're developing these skills, you're getting this confidence. Did the dream change, or were you kind of saying, all right, I'll see where this takes me?
I think it's funny because I wonder now, like, did I even have a clear dream?
I mean, you don't necessarily have to, right? I'm not trying to say you do.
No, yeah. And I just think that my dream for a long time was to get a job. Like, I wanted to get a job, and I put so much on getting a job that it was almost like I couldn't see past that, so I wasn't really thinking from a perspective of what in life do I envision for myself, and, what am I doing? What makes me happy? It was like, I need to have a job so I can be an adult, so that I can feel like a grown-up, so that I can be independent. And the fact that I don't says something bad about me. You know what I mean? So I think at that time, I didn't even give myself, I was so consumed with being quote unquote on track for my age, especially as the years were passing by. I was so consumed with that and just judging myself so harshly for that I didn't even let myself sit back and be like, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? And then I think when I stumbled into ghostwriting, because it was definitely a stumble, I was only seeking mentorship at the time, and it turned into an opportunity. And I don't know about you, but I had never really seriously thought about the fact that ghostwriting existed outside of like a rap music mentality, exactly. Like that's how I thought about ghostwriting. So when I kind of stumbled into this opportunity, it was like falling into a whole other world and just realizing, oh wow, like yes, this is a an industry that's now become wide open to me. And so then I think I started thinking about what my dreams were. But by that time, I had started so many of my own projects from, my YouTube, my Instagram, and all my content creation stuff, that I think the dream that started to form was one that was making a little bit more sense, but it still wasn't one thing, right? Like I still felt like I'm really liking writing, but I also really like content creation and being an influencer. And I know that these are both things I want to do, but I don't know,
what were your people? What were people telling you at this point? Because I feel like I'm only asking that because I think it's real. Sometimes when you get feedback, right? It could be unsolicited feedback. It could be feedback that you asked for. It could just be natural feedback. What was the world telling you about who McKenzie should be, what they think you should be doing? And how did you navigate that?
I've always been someone who's been very transparent on social media, which is, I guess, some people see as a bad thing. But that's just always how I used it. And so in that, I think some friends and acquaintances had just said, you put a lot of like positive thoughts out on, Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is every day. Like, I like the messages that you have, like you should write a book. So I started hearing things like that. I heard people saying that they saw me being an author. Other people really saw me going full throttle at the influencer thing and the content creation, you're so good on camera and things like that. So I think those were like the little whispers that I kind of heard from my community, but again, it was me sitting there trying to figure out how I was going to stitch all my different interests together, still putting my pressure on myself to like, I guess, be one thing that made sense. And I think I've since just realized that like, I'm always just going to be a person that does multiple things. Like it is what it is. I no longer am trying to worry about if that makes sense or how that's perceived by other people. So yeah, I'm happy to be doing multiple
the multi-hyphenate. You that's what you mentioned in the beginning, right? You are multi-hyphenate. So we have writer's block as being a catalyst moment for you, right? What do you think was the next moment or next stop along the dream driving journey, right? That you realized, okay, oh snap. All right, I'm learning something here. This could be something.
I think definitely 2019, I did the 2019 VMAs for Lizzo as a backup dancer. And that was so, I think to a lot of people in my life, it made sense because especially for those who knew me from college, they always saw me as a dancer, a performer. They knew that I liked it so much. It was the one constant in my life and my whole post-grad trajectory. When I didn't have a job, I was still taking classes. Like, when I didn't have an internship or when I didn't know what was going on, I was always steadily on a dance team or in the city taking classes. So it made sense to a lot of other people, but to me, it felt very random and very out of left field because similarly to the whole writing thing and how I was never able to say like, I'm a writer, I never really claimed like I'm a dancer. To me, it was just always, I like to dance. Like, oh yeah, I like to dance. I do it in my free time. It's my passion. But I had never considered really taking on any serious professional opportunities. And so that was another thing that I kind of stumbled into because one of the choreographers and a friend of mine, Kendrick Samuels, whose class I took very often, he had heard that there was going to be an audition for the VMAs. We didn't even know the artist's name. I had my suspicions that it was Lizzo because they were looking for specifically curvy. He didn't know. Okay. As far as I know, he didn't know because he didn't tell me, hey, Lizzo's having an audition. He said, hey, I heard there's a VMAs audition. They're looking for curvy and plus size dancers. So basically when I heard that, I kind of assumed that it would be Lizzo because, there's not that many artists today that are as inclusive in terms of the dancers that they hire. So I had my sneaking suspicion. But of course, when he suggested that I go, I was like, child, I'm not going to no audition with these professional dancers. Like I'm not a professional dancer. That was very much my mentality. But so after I spoke to him, I just had a couple other friends and then just like acquaintances that I had seen around the way while I take classes in the city message me and go out of their way to say, hey, I think you need to go for this. And so I just was kind of in a mode where I was like, multiple people are telling me I should go for this. Like, why not? I'll just go. If anything, it's just taking the dance class. So I really just took the pressure off myself. I went. And then I want to say the next day or 2 days after that, I got the call that I had made it. And so then I was like, oh, I'm really about to dance for Lizzo.
Hey, pause real quick. You mentioned something. You took the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think that contributed to anything?
Yes, definitely. I think I'm surprised that I even went, to be honest. Like, because there was a time, like I told you, I had just come out of years of reading job applications every day, only to not apply. You know what I mean? Just because I just felt like, well, I'm not qualified. So I was reading them and not applying. So in my head, if you would have told me that I would even go to the audition, I would have been like, you're not talking about the right McKenzie. So I don't know what it was about. I guess it just was like such an out there opportunity that it's just kind of like, you just gotta go for it type of thing. But I think even when I went in, I wanted it, but I didn't want it so bad that I like counted myself out. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't want it so bad. I just really tried to tell myself, hey, you take dance classes all the time. Just go and treat it like another dance class. And that's what I did. I went and I learned the steps and I just treated it like it was a dance class. Was I nervous? Of course. But for me, because I had already lowered the stakes in my mind and just said, hey, this is something I would do on a normal day anyway. This is something I'm interested in anyway. Just go do it like it's a normal day. I think because I took the stakes, I lowered the stakes, it allowed me to go and just be my authentic self. And when I walked out, I remember I already felt good because I was just happy that I went. I was like, wow, you went. To me, that was the hurdle. Like, wow, girl, like you're winning. You went. You like crossed that hurdle with yourself. You were brave. And then I got it and I was like, oh, snap. That's crazy.
So why do you think, I can link to the performance for people so they can see just how you killed it, right? Why did you label this a catalyst moment for you? What happened next? Like, how did this unravel or unleash new opportunities within yourself, for others? Like, how did this kind of serve as the stepping point for something else?
Oh, it was just, I can't even really put full words to the experience itself. Mm-hmm. It was just one of those once in a lifetime things. The whole thing happened over the course of, I want to say, a week, like from the audition to the performance itself. It was a really quick thing. We were having rehearsals every day for hours upon hours, very physically exhausting and grueling, but it was just so fulfilling. And I think the best part of it for me was not the fact that, I got to perform at the VMAs. It was the atmosphere during the rehearsals. I mean, just kudos to Lizzo and her team, because the way that she presents herself in her music, I think it's very empowering and very uplifting. And that's exactly what the vibe was from the first day. I've danced all my life, but never in a professional capacity. So you think you're going to be stepping in and it's going to be like 5, 6, 7, 8, get these steps, like,
like Dorian Gibson type stuff.
Yeah, like you think it's going to be making the band, like you're going to get cut, you're out of here. You don't know what to expect when you're not really a part of that world in a professional sense. Yeah. So for me, I just, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome there where you just feel like, what am I even doing here? Oh my God, you don't want to make a wrong step. You don't want to step on anybody's toes. You don't, you just are very nervous. And they did such a good job of making us comfortable. There were dancers there who had been dancing for years. One of the women that I danced with, Shirlene Quigley, she was in Beyonce's Crazy in Love video, the first video when she went solo. So when I say like there were established, esteemed dancers with long, thriving careers in there, and then there were girls like me who had never done anything like this before. Obviously, everyone's talented, but it was just that in itself just made you realize, wow, never count yourself out, because anything is possible. Like you couldn't have told me that I would be in the room dancing with people who had danced with Janet Jackson and Beyonce and Lizzo. You know what I mean? You couldn't have told me that. So I think just it was the environment more so than the experience of being on stage. I mean, that was an incredible experience, of course, but it was just how welcoming everyone it was. And Lizzo just, I remember we went around the room the day before, I want to say, the day before we actually performed. And we had things to do, right? It was the day before. So we're trying to tighten up the steps and clean the choreography. And Lizzo was so much more concerned with hearing each of our stories. So we went around, and I don't even know how many dancers and singers were part of that performance. It was a lot of us. And she just let all of us speak. And we spoke on everything from confidence to self-doubt. We cried about body image issues and how liberating it was to be in a room, some of us for the first time in a leotard with our legs out. Like, you know, you're talking to women who are self-conscious, or even if they're not currently self-conscious or they weren't at the time, we've all dealt with those issues at one point or another, especially being plus size women. Like, you know, I don't wear bathing suits and, you know, sleeveless things because I was uncomfortable. And now here I am dancing, everything is shaking, you know, in a leotard with a whole bunch of women that I had only met a week prior. So it was just such a safe space to be bold and to be yourself and to share. And everything was treated with so much respect. And I just really appreciated that not only Lizzo, but her choreographer, Jamel McWilliams, the environment that they set for us just made you feel like you deserve to be here. You deserve to be seen. You don't have to hide. You are good enough. If you weren't good enough, you wouldn't be here. There was just so much of that affirmation and validation throughout the whole process that by the time we performed, I felt like the performance was just the cherry on top, because I already felt like, wow, I did my part in showing up and making sure that I got myself in the room. You know what I mean? That was the real win to me. And then once I got in that room, you just realize that you deserve to be there the whole time. And that the only person who was telling you that you couldn't have been in a room like that was you. Yeah. So even though that's, you know, specific to dance, I think the way that I felt in that time, I've really carried over into how I think about everything, you know, career-wise, dance-wise, content creation. It's like, you have to put yourself in the room because you never know what will happen.
I was going to say that. For me, hearing you talk about it, right, it made me realize that you found where you thrive, right? You found that you need an environment that is nurturing, that is inspiring. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm not a plant person, but I know that certain plants need certain type of care, right? Or they need certain type of watering schedules are different. Even like the actual physical soil has to be a certain type, has to be in the sun versus being inside. Like you have found the room that you thrive, right?
No, I'm agreeing 100%. Like I don't even think I thought about it in that capacity till you said it, but that's 100%, 100% true. And I just think that nowadays there's a lot of talk, you know, on the internet about tough love and people are oversensitive and people can't handle anything these days. And don't get me wrong, there's a place for that, but I just have never identified with that. I'm a soft person. And I just think that whole experience just reaffirmed for me how great that is when people honor that for you, when people give you the space to talk about your doubts and insecurities and to then use that opportunity to put love back into you. You know what I mean? And not tell you to toughen up or get over it or just believe in yourself or like, you know what I mean? Or have some confidence. Instead, they use words of affirmation and they give you the time to say like, hey, this is scary, but I'm dipping my toe in the water. And then you just realize that when you have people around you that are bigging you up in that way, it's so much easier to step into that next phase of yourself. So no, I feel like I probably never made that connection, but that's really true.
Do you feel like that also then gave you the even boost of confidence? I feel like for you, it's really been like these little boosts of confidence that have pushed you to something else with your own work, with your own projects that you're working on. Like, did you kind of feel like, all right, that was one thing. Now I could go into this and really start defining who McKenzie is outside of the lens of the work you were doing for other people?
Yeah, 100%. Like that, when I say that experience was formative, like, you know, a lot of people hear it and they're like, wow, that's so cool. And yeah, it was cool. But to me, it was like, it really did change my life. Like, you know, the song that we performed with Lizzo was Good as Hell. And she had her speech at the end where she said, you deserve to feel good as hell. And I tattooed it. It's tattooed on my body because that's how, it's on my arm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's on my arm. It says you deserve to feel good as hell because that was the reminder that I needed, you know? And so, like I said, that goes beyond the context of dance, because it's not necessarily that, oh, now I've become a professional dancer, right? Like it's not that part. It's just that it applies to all aspects of life. So I think in that whole experience and just pushing myself over the hump of the doubt and just saying like, hey, if you're interested in this, that's enough of a reason to give it a try. I was interested, and what the audition would be like. So I went, and then it worked out so amazingly. So I think now that's something that I take into every next thing that I'm interested in doing. It's like, I don't lead with, am I good enough to do this thing? Are they going to give me the opportunity to do this thing? And instead I lead with, I want to do this thing, so I'm going to try. You know what I mean? And that's not to say I don't have doubts. That's not to say I don't think about what other people think, because I'm a human being and we all do. But I'm so much easier to return to that home base of, it's not about what other people think. It's not about what other people let you do or give you the opportunity to do. It's about you taking opportunities for yourself, you identifying something and being honest with yourself. Does this intrigue me? Am I curious about this thing? Do I have any interest in exploring it? If so, then you owe it to yourself to do it.
And I think even knowing your journey, knowing that it's all right if in the beginning you don't approach it with 100%, right, of the confidence or 100% of the belief, but just even approaching it with 10%, knowing that will grow once you continue in it and you keep taking chances on yourself. That I think is also encouraging for people who may not yet 100% believe, right? It's like, just do a little bit of something, right?
Yes. It's really just about the action. Like, I've just realized that confidence is in the doing. And the reason, like there's, I love impact theory and Tom Bilyeu. And something that I learned from him in his interviews is that, like, you have to earn credibility with yourself. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm so unconfident. Why can't I just be confident like the next person? And it's like, that person is confident because they do the things they say they're going to do. It's not that confidence is not a personality trait, right? It's something that you develop, and you develop it by taking actions. And those actions don't always feel good when you're doing them. But when you don't think you can do it and then you do it, you prove to yourself, oh, I can do it. It is possible. And then you earn a little bit of credibility with yourself, right? Because you said you were going to do something and you showed up. So I think for me, building confidence has definitely been about just trying, just like not counting myself out. It's not about believing in myself. I would say it's more so about suspending the disbelief. Just suspend the disbelief just for a moment, cast some doubt on the idea that you already know how it's going to play out. You don't. So just stay open and stay curious and suspend the impulse that I understand, because I used to operate completely from that impulse, but just suspend that disbelief and just say, what if I get the job? Like, what if I get the role? What if I audition and I get it? Like, you don't know.
I have something for you. So I want to play for you a part in our 2017 interview when I asked you about like what's next for you, right? And I want you to listen to all the things that came true. So this was 4 years ago. Hopefully it'll play. I'm going to put my phone by the mic so that, hold on, tell me if you hear it.
The dream for McKenzie, I feel like, is ever evolving. But, I've started getting back into journaling and into the practice of speaking things into existence. So some of the things that I've been writing down as, declarations to myself is I will be a successful YouTuber, meaning I will make money from my videos and I will continue to grow my platform. I will one day write a book. I don't know what kind of book, maybe just an excerpt, like, a collection of excerpts, poetry, something. But one day I will write a book. One day I will be a motivational speaker. And yeah, again, I don't know. I'm not that person. I still can't say I want to be an X. I want to be an editor. I want to be a teacher. And that still really scares me. But I guess I'm learning to be a little bit more okay with that. And for right now, in the immediate future, I'm just going to apply to jobs in different fields.
All right, put that off there. But how does does it feel hearing that? Like you said, you wanted to be a successful YouTuber, get paid. Girl, you've gotten there, right? You've gotten paid for your work on social media in general.
It's crazy. I've actually just landed like my biggest brand deal like to date. So it's just crazy the timing of listening back to that now. I am currently working on my own book. So it's just really funny because I listened to most of our interview back, but I hadn't gotten to that part. So
the motivational speaker, how a lot of your content now, and it's something that you always said, like you didn't only just ever want to talk about beauty and, that stuff, but that content is one that you're folding into this new book, this inspirational, motivational stuff. Like, talk to us about the new ventures, McKenzie. What's on the horizon, and how are you taking this? How are you using these new moments to build something new for yourself?
I'm really excited about what's to come. Like I mentioned, like I've been ghostwriting, right, since 2018. I currently have a full-time job as a copywriter. So I'm also writing for someone else, which I love doing. I love dipping into other people's heads and other people's brand voices.
He's a damn motivational speaker,
Yeah.
The company you work for. He's the king of motivation.
Yes, for sure. And so I love that aspect of itself, but I'm really excited because I think the next chapter is about me coming out from behind, behind the shadows, I guess you could say, to really put my own writing forward under my own name and in a different capacity, because it's creative. It's my poetry. And I had, poetry is something that I used to dip and dabble in high school. And then I just kind of never did it. I started again in 2017. After a breakup, as these things go. I was all in my feelings and poetry and journaling. Like I mentioned last episode, it really was an outlet for me. And then again, I kind of fell away from it. And then 2020 to now, I've just gone full throttle back. I haven't been writing this much poetry in a long time. So I'm preparing for my own poetry and prose collection. And I'm launching a blog and my website. I'm launching both an Instagram and a TikTok under McKenzie Pens, coming literally this month. Might even be up by the time this interview goes live, God willing. And so I'm excited. I'm still Kenzie Kens. I'm still doing the natural hair content, the funny content, because that's a very real side of my personality. And I love the page and the community that I've built under that username. But I'm excited for people to get to know me as McKenzie Pens and get to know my poetry and my affirmations and the things that I feel like are really me on a day-to-day basis. Like, this is how I got through those periods of self-doubt and deprecation and lost and being lost and being confused about where I was going, if I was going to be okay, if I was going to be able to be independent and take care of myself. Poetry is really the medium that helped me with all of that, and journaling. So I think you're going to get to see a lot more of the sensitive, I don't want to say sensitive side of me, because I think all my sides are sensitive. I'm just a sensitive person. But I think people are going to see just a different, they're going to see me in a different light than they've seen me so far on the internet, in terms of it's going to be less, it's not beauty and hair and, jokes and laughs. It's really just like, I just want to make people feel good, because I think writing makes me feel good. It helps me process. So if anybody else can take anything from that, then I'll be really happy. So I'm really excited to launch my website, my newsletter, and my McKenzie Pens Instagram and TikTok account all this month.
So let's be real, right?
Yeah.
What are you nervous about?
I'm nervous about that. Honestly, like as excited as I am, right? I think excited and nervous are just two sides of the same coin. Like, you know what I mean? I'm nervous. It's nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, right? I've gotten a lot of comfort in being a ghostwriter because it's allowed me to build my confidence, but it's allowed me to do it on the sly, like on the low. Like, nobody has to know if it's not good. You know what I mean? It's not me. It's the person that I'm writing for. And obviously, I aspire to have great work at all times, but ghostwriting does. It's a little shield. You don't have to be as vulnerable as saying, "Bye, McKenzie Dawkins." this came from my heart and my brain and my hands. And now I'm putting it out and, you know, hoping that people read it. But I think the good thing there is that I really do hope and believe that some of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing can resonate with other people and help other people, but it's not written for other people. Everything that I've written, it was written for me first. You know what I mean? A lot of this stuff comes straight from my journal. You know, just stream of consciousness journaling sessions while I was processing, you know, disappointment or rejection or anything like that. So these are the words that I've used to soothe myself and to show myself grace. So I think that if that can do anything for anyone else, that's amazing. But it is vulnerable. It's vulnerable to share your inner thoughts with the world.
It really is. But I really commend you. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. I've seen, you know, I've known behind the scenes our little, you know, Instagram turned rants and all the text messages that we've done. And I feel like, I think your journey is an example of you made your own, right? Like, you may not have wanted to in the beginning, right? But
yeah, I definitely did not want to.
It definitely has been a unique one that you can say, like, this really has been you taking the, you know, if you were riding a horse, right? They weren't in a car. Like, you've been beating that horse. You have to get off sometimes. You had to do the walking yourself and drag the horse down too. But you really had, this has really truly been a journey. And I'm proud of you. Proud of where you're going, where you've gone, where you've been, all that.
Thank you. No, you know, I love you, girl. You know, I'm proud of you too. And you're definitely one of the main people that's had a front row seat to.
And I gave you some bad internship connects in the beginning.
Also, yes, let's let y'all know that Raina is the plug. Okay, half of those internships, I feel like half the opportunities that I've had. Like, they might not have yielded jobs, but that was you looking out and being like, "Ooh, you girl, you need to apply to this."
Like this.
But it's important to have. That was so invaluable to me, right? Because when you just feel lost, it was nice to know that you have people in your corner that see so much potential in you that aren't going to let you give up on yourself, and that are going to be like, "Girl, you got to keep trying. Something's going to work out." So you've always been probably that number one person. So I really do appreciate it. Like,
thank you. Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, what are you doing to make sure that you are taking care of yourself now? I feel like you are in a good space. You have a lot of things set up. You're working on a lot of things. What are some of your go-to? All right, I need this. These are non-negotiables for me right now in my life.
Yeah, I think boundaries is a huge thing, especially when you are somebody who does a bunch of different things. This is as much of a blessing as it is, you know, I landed my first quote unquote big girl job. And to anybody who's still looking, keep looking, because it took me 7 years after college. It's 7 years until I got my first quote unquote, you know, big girl job. So it's coming for you too. But my point being, you know, now I'm balancing a job. I'm balancing my freelance writing, ghostwriting on the side. I have my content creation for my McKenzie Ken's channels. That's YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I'm launching a blog, website, newsletter, and 2 other social accounts under McKenzie Pens for my poetry and prose. So it's a lot. It's a lot, not to mention the pandemic and everything that's going on, trying to keep your sanity, trying to spend any kind of time, quality time with friends or family, trying to do anything else in your life, get healthy. It's a lot. So I think for me, luckily I like everything that I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I never feel like I'm being disingenuous or inauthentic to myself. I think everything that, even though I'm doing many things and it can be overwhelming sometimes, I think I have my hand in a bunch of different pots, but they're all pots that feed me and like that fuel me and that I actually want to be involved in. So I think that's one thing, right? To do things that you enjoy. But then I think it's just, you have to have boundaries, and you have to say, I can't be everything to everybody. And, you know, when I'm doing something, I'm focused on doing a good job. But when I'm not doing something, that's my time to not do something. And, you know, I try to wake up in the morning and it's like, the morning is for me. It's for me. The emails can wait. You know, I used to have a bad case of email anxiety, like, you know, to the point where I could never have the notification on because it just would trigger me. So at this point, I feel like I'm doing a little bit better because I deal with me before I deal with what anybody else wants.
That's so important.
It's so important. And especially when you have less time, you just realize like it would be so easy to just say, oh, wow, I have a job now and I have a side gig. So like, this is great. I'm set. But that's not great. You know what I mean? Like I have other interests and other things that I want to do that are important to me. This book that I'm writing for myself is very important to me. This blog and everything that I'm about to launch is very important to me. So I put in just as much time and more, to those things that I do for anything that I do for anybody else. Because if I'm not everything to myself, I can't be anything to anybody else, so.
I love that. So, as we're winding down, I have one last question for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I asked you in the beginning, what would you name this part of what would you name the book or whatever, right? You said trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
So picture you're in the car right now, right? You're driving down a highway, beautiful sunset,
mm-hmm.
In the front, in the horizon. What would you name where you're going?
Oh gosh, what would I name where I'm going? Raina, you always ask the most difficult questions.
I'm over here just thinking of random things, okay? Like maybe it's the ellipses, ... You don't know, right? You know.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know if it's a destination. I think I'm over the phase of my life where I'm consumed with destinations. I think I'm going inward more so than anything else. I think I'm going deeper into me, I think for the first half of my journey, post-grad, it was like trying to get there, quote unquote, there, wherever there is, like employed, living on your own, whatever that is for you. Like I was trying to get to a point that was outside of myself. I was measuring myself by things that I did not have. And now I'm taking stock of what I do have, what I am grateful for,
mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to live in that and move deeper into that. So I love writing. What does that look like? I'm going to move deeper into that. Like I like creating content. What does that look like if I really go all in on those things? So I feel like it's not even, I'm not doing it so that I can be like, so that I can have success necessarily. We all want all of our endeavors to be successful, of course, but I'm doing it because I feel that I have to do it. I'm doing it because I feel like I have to write this book, because why would the idea have come to me? You know what I mean? It's waiting on me to be created. I feel like as a creator, it's not your job to determine if your art is good or bad. It's your job to determine whether it exists or not. So that's where I am right now, where I'm like, it's my job to do this because I have the calling to do it. So if people like it, people don't like it, that's not my business. You know what I mean? Other people's opinions of you, good or bad, are not your business. You hope for the best, but I'm satisfied in that I'm going for it. I'm satisfied in that I'm in the ring and I'm not counting myself out, because that's just the biggest thing that I've learned. There's been so much serendipity in my journey thus far that I've just learned I got to back myself. You know what I mean? Because, for instance, I stumbled into mentorship because I was lost, because nobody else would give me an opportunity. So I stumbled into the mentorship because I needed direction. And in that, I found ghostwriting. Had I not started ghostwriting, I wouldn't have gotten my current job as a copywriter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I started my YouTube channel because I got rejected from BAC from my dance group in college. If I didn't start my YouTube channel, you know what I mean, then I wouldn't have built the platforms that I built today. So it's just like it all works out. And the proof that you're still here, whether you have a plan or not, and whether things go according to that plan or not, the proof that you're still here is proof that the universe bends in your favor. And that's how I feel. Like if you follow your natural impulses, the universe will bend in your favor. So I'm just trying to really make sure that I'm honoring all of my impulses first, because I feel like they haven't led me wrong.
Well, I think that is a perfect way to end this interview, McKenzie. Hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I think our dream drivers had. But make sure you tell us, tell our dream drivers where they can connect with you online. They want to tune in. They want to support.
Yeah.
They want to tell you if they like your content or not.
Yes, no, first, I mean, thank you so much, Raiden. This was so fun. Like, it's so bizarre listening to where you were a couple of years ago and just seeing how much stuff has changed. If you're interested in natural hair and beauty content, definitely follow me on YouTube, Kenzie Kens. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Kenzie Kens. It's Kenzie_Kens1. And then if you're interested in affirmations, just self-worth, healing, self-care, self-love type of content, definitely be sure to follow me at McKenzie Pens on Instagram and TikTok. Look out for my upcoming newsletter and my blog. I will definitely be announcing all of these on all of my platforms. So you can catch me on any one of those things and you'll know what I'm up to.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 277 with McKenzie Dawkins. I hope you enjoyed listening to her dream driving journey and her keys to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you're sharing it with your community. You can find us across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. And make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening, all right? If you want to join our online newsletter and get weekly email updates delivered right to your inbox, go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. I am so excited to be delivering a new episode every Monday for the rest of the year. So keep me honest, keep me committed. I really enjoy hearing from you guys every week on social media. So don't be afraid to send me a message, say hi, and let me know what you think about the show. So our next guest next week is going to be Amelia Ortiz, and we're going to talk about the realities of what it's like being a first-time mom during a pandemic. Amelia is such a great spirit, so I'm really excited for you all to hear from her. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again. Bye, guys.